I'm actually in the background there in the dark blue shirt with my arms crossed.
Oh my god, yes you are.
So
You're
it's
actually
funny
in a
that,
photo with George Lucas, the child, and then there's you.
yeah.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Mary and I make regular reaction and review videos, but today we are going to be doing a little bit of a different video. I am about to interview Tom Howard, who is a lighting console programmer in Hollywood, and he's worked on The Mandalorian. And you guys have asked questions on my YouTube community tab and also over on Instagram. Go ahead and follow me on Instagram if you haven't already, and check out my community tab because I'm always writing and updating you guys on there. But yeah, we're going to be chatting all things Mandalorian, and this video is going to be a long one. And before we get started, I do want to point out that I have watched season 1 of The Mandalorian. The entire season 1 is already up on Patreon. I'm just posting this one out early because I was excited to get it out there for you guys, and also you guys asked such brilliant questions. So thank you all for your questions that you submitted. I couldn't obviously include all of them. Without further ado, let's welcome Tom onto my channel. Welcome, Tom. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, hi, it's nice to be here. I'm glad to chat with you.
The Mandalorian seems to have been ahead of its time now that everybody can't travel. Perhaps other productions may also not have a choice but to look into LED video wall technology moving forward. How do you feel being a part of cinematic history through your involvement in The Mandalorian?
Yeah, I just feel super lucky to be involved in this show. I've been working in film and television for the past 15 years or so.
Wow.
So I've worked my way up, and I've been lucky and fortunate to have done a lot of very cool and different shows and different projects. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, it's still a freelance job. So, you know, I work on a movie or a season of television, and then I got to find the next job. So a lot of it comes down to just being in the right place at the right time. And so I'm like really lucky that I have had the opportunity to work on this show. Yeah, and when you're talking about something like the LED video wall technology, like Star Wars has always been about pushing the bounds of technology, and this show is no different. Movies have been using projection technology since the beginning, like front projection or rear projection in some form or another. But what kind of brings it to the next level in Mandalorian is we're now able to do like real-time tracking, camera tracking technology, and render an environment in real time using game engine. And so you can have moving cameras and you can do all this interactive stuff that really wasn't possible before. And so that's been like super exciting.
Yeah, the video that I saw from ILM VFX was absolutely mind-blowing. It just seemed like it was 3022. I was looking at something from 3022. Nothing like from 2020. Nothing that I could have possibly imagined. So what challenges did you face using this technology compared to what you were used to using in the past?
I mean, a lot of it's new to all of us. So a lot of it's we're learning as we go. And so, you know, the results have gotten better as we've gone on. I mean, to be honest, out of the gate, I think it looked really well. And Favreau and his team and ILM, you know, they're all wizards at what they do. And they've been kind of paving the way with The Lion King and some other shows before. And so, you know, to kind of get to this point where we can use it on a live action set has been pretty amazing. Like Mandalorian was like the perfect candidate for it because the character is like a walking chrome ball. Like he reflects the whole world around him, including like your lighting setups, your cameras or whatever. So setting him inside like a virtual landscape allows us to kind of embrace the reflections of that. And yeah, like I'll show you a picture here now. This was released by ILM, one of the first pictures that came out for kind of showing the volume.
Exciting.
They did a great job because you can, like the ship, for example, is this kind of chrome plated ship. And so you get these reflections from the environment that you couldn't normally do. And like if you try to do it with a green screen, it can get really tricky trying to add in reflections and that kind of stuff.
That photo is
which
amazing.
Is really cool. Yeah, I think there's another picture from an ILM article, like when you're in space and you do like the hyperspace.
Yeah, the hyperspace.
And so you have, you know, the Mandalorian in his chrome helmet and stuff, and you're seeing all that interactive light, you know, throughout the ship and on his armor.
Such an inspiring set.
Yeah, it's pretty cool what you can do. But from my side, I still work with the practical lights on set. I'm not part of ILM. I'm not working in the virtual environment. I'm working with the physical lights as a lighting programmer.
Yeah.
So we will still supplement the set and the actors with traditional lighting. And so here's a picture again. I think ILM released this one. Joey, one of our set lighting techs, and he's holding a little handheld light, which is supplementing what that lantern is doing there. And so he's shining a light on Mando and the child,
making
like
the
you would traditionally,
lantern look like
yeah,
brighter.
to kind of give the glow of the lantern.
Yeah.
But there's a perfect example how you can see, like, we have this beautiful environment they've created. You know, they have a real, you know, a set of rocks on the ground and some landscaping, and then it kind of blends into the virtual environment behind them. That allows us to do cool stuff. Like, I mean, this scene is kind of this like golden hour, magic hour moment, and you know, in the real world, you can only shoot that for half an hour, 45 minutes, and then the light disappears on you.
Totally.
So this, you can just live at this time of day as long as you want.
As long as you need until you get that line right.
Exactly.
And so,
which is really cool.
Were you a Star Wars fan before the show? And if so, how amazing did it feel when you landed a role like this? Because I'm sure that there are some Star Wars fans in your field of work that would love to be in your shoes.
Yeah. I definitely consider myself like a lifelong Star Wars fan. I grew up in the 80s, and Star Wars was a part of my childhood from the very get-go. So, you know, I went to film school at USC, and, you know, breaking into the film industry, it's like you always kind of imagine that, oh, it'd be cool to work on something like Star Wars, never imagining that you'd actually have the opportunity to do so. So that's, you know, it's kind of been a dream come true in a lot of ways. And it's cool that, you know, a lot of other people at work are also fans of the franchise. So it's fun to like geek out with them and kind of just really embrace the project that we're working on.
Yeah. And so in terms of your daily process, what went into ensuring the impeccable scenery that the fans, including myself, love so much?
Well, let's see. As my job as lighting programmer, actually my role is pretty similar to what it is on most other films. So to kind of break it down, I work at a lighting console, and I have control of all the lights that are on the soundstage. It's kind of like what you'd see at a rock concert or a musical theater.
Yep.
All the lights are on stage. There's a guy at the console controlling that. That's my role, but in a soundstage environment instead of a live performance kind of thing.
Yeah.
But oftentimes, like, the process begins much earlier. So, you know, in prep, I'm meeting with art department, and I'll get construction plans of a set. And then I'll sit down with the gaffer, who's the head of the lighting department, and sometimes the cinematographer, and plan out how to light the set. And I'll use another project that I worked on. This is from one of the Transformers movies to kind of use as an example. One of my jobs is kind of drawing up the lighting plot. So I'll take the notes that I get from the gaffer, and I'll take the kind of construction plans I'll get from art department, and I'll have to put together some sort of lighting plot to kind of show where all the lights in the set are. And so in this set I have shown here in this lighting plot is like a submarine that has just surfaced in this kind of big underwater environment. And so you can see there's a bunch of all these little lights in there, and I have to kind of get them programmed, and I have to pick fixture numbers for all of them. And then I kind of create these lighting plots, which I will then give to the rigging departments, the electric riggers and the rigging grip department. And they'll, you know, hang the truss and hang the lights and run the cable. Once, you know, the set has been rigged, we usually got to test all the lights. So on the same set on Transformers, this is kind of the set in the real environment. And so there's like the lighting console you can see.
That's something you work on.
Yeah, exactly. So there I'm like sitting at the console.
Oh, that's a nice
controlling
photo.
the lights on there. And once we start to bring in the atmosphere and get the lighting right, you know, it's starting to look more and more like the real thing.
Yeah, wow.
Then on the day, I usually the gaffer standing next to the cinematographer, calling the shots on what he wants the lights to do, and, you know, the intensity levels and sometimes the color and all that kind of stuff. And so as the programmer, it's my job to kind of, you know, make that happen on the day. And on some of these, you know, bigger shows, there's oftentimes a lot of effects lighting. Maybe like you're simulating an explosion that happens, so you're doing like bright orange flashes or all sorts of, you know, flickering effects or whatever the case may be. That's the job in a nutshell. And so I do that same type of work on Mandalorian. Where Mando differs a little bit is, being a Star Wars show, there are like button panels galore. So next to every doorway, think of all the spaceship cockpits, every little light and LED and button that you see on frame has to be wired up. We have an amazing fixtures crew that wire up everything, and then I have to program a look for them. Me and Derek, who's the A unit programmer on the show, we'll sit down and we'll figure out, okay, what do we want these button panels to look like? So we'll often go refer back to the old films. We'll watch the original trilogy, which is not hard to do because we're both huge fans, and we'll look at kind of see what they did there and try to emulate that, but kind of, modernize it a bit if need be. Another publicity photo is with Jabber Chow, one of the directors, and all those little blinky lights there's got to do something. You want to make it look, like it's doing something. Or for example, I think there was a scene in one of the early episodes where the child is like
he's
pressing
mixing
buttons
and
things go
that was funny.
Wild. Yeah. So you gotta, make something up that looks believable.
Yeah,
cool.
that's interesting. So much goes into it, and people don't necessarily think about these roles, and it's just amazing. Everybody has such a big thing to do to make it what it is.
Yeah, I'm just one tiny piece of a big puzzle. There's so many people bringing so many crafts to bear, and it's pretty amazing what can get done.
So, did you get to spend time with any of the cast members? And if so, which did you get along with the most? You have to tell us.
Well, I'll admit that my position as a lighting programmer doesn't interact directly with the cast members like hair or makeup or wardrobe does, for example. That being said, they're on set every day like we are. So, you definitely get to chat with them here and there. And I have nothing but the greatest things to say about the cast we have. They're all super nice. Everyone's super enthusiastic. Everyone's thrilled to be there. Who did I get along with most? I mean, God, they're all really great. I will say Ming-Na Wen, who played Fennec in season 1, episode 5. Yeah. I had worked with her previously on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for a bit. So it was nice to see her, as a friendly face. And she's like the nicest, sweetest person ever. And she's a huge Star Wars fan as well. So it's always fun to kind of geek out with her and be like, can you believe we're actually doing this? This is so cool.
I would totally be the same. I would be freaking out, but then also humble, but also like, you're here because you're talented, that's why you got the job.
Yeah.
And I can see that through watching The Mandalorian, the lights, the setup, everything just is, everyone's there because they did that. They're talented.
Yeah.
So I know you can't talk about season 2, but I do want to talk about future production amidst coronavirus. Was production, like post-production, impacted at all? And are there any holds on production as far as you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a whole new world for all of us, that's for sure. We were fortunate in that we were able to finish on-set photography before COVID and the lockdowns came into effect. So a lot, basically the film industry, at least on-set filming, shut down all across, the state and the country. But from what I've led to believe, they were able to continue post-production because they were able to kind of remain isolated, and they I'm sure had their own workarounds. I can only speculate because I'm not part of post. But the season 2 is slated to come out very soon, so it looks like they were able to get it done.
Yeah.
And yeah, it seems like, the film industry is starting to come back alive again. And I've started working on a couple projects. I worked on a movie for a little bit about a month ago, and I'm working on another project now. I can't say what they are, of course, but it seems like they are taking a lot of necessary precautions. Everyone in the cast and crew is getting tested weekly, and everyone's abiding by new rules and regulations and procedures. So far, I will say I feel pretty safe working these days amidst, the crisis that we're all facing.
Yeah. That's really interesting to know because, obviously I don't live in Hollywood, or I don't really know what goes on in people's workplaces. So it's really interesting to hear how everybody's kind of dealing with it in each field that they're in. Mm-hmm. So going to move over to the fan questions. Okay. Some people asked some questions on my YouTube community tab, and also Instagram, but we've only selected a few because of time restraints.
Sure.
So how was your experience working with virtual sets on The Mandalorian versus any green screen work you've done in the past, and what are the pros and cons?
Well, I've talked about some of the advantages we've a little bit earlier, but what helps, it's certainly from the actor's perspective, is if you're on a green screen set, you're surrounded by green or blue, as the case may be, and the actor really has to kind of just imagine that the space that they're in.
Yeah.
So that adds an extra level of challenge to them. So being in a virtual environment certainly helps them kind of immerse themselves in the world, which is amazing. But also it helps us on the lighting side as well, because when there is a big blue screen set, maybe there's a window and there's a big blue screen behind it. As the lighting side, we have to kind of imagine what's supposed to be out there and maybe, emulate the lighting that's coming from the outside.
Yes.
And, certainly you'll have discussions with, you get to see concept art or talk with the cinematographer, and, they can talk about what they want to see, but you don't necessarily know until post gets their hands on it to find out what they're going to do. And so now that we can see virtually, there are some lights over here that we can now emulate and supplement with our own lighting, and we can make sure the color matches and the quality matches, and that stuff. And that's been really helpful. Though that being said, so I guess some of the cons are this new virtual production machine takes a lot of prep work. You can't just walk into a set and start shooting. A lot of time that would traditionally be spent in post has to now be spent in pre-production, building all these virtual sets. And I'm not a part of that world as at all. So I think I only have a very shallow understanding of the amount of work that goes into it. So you really need to have a game plan on how, the sets are going to work, and even where we need to rig lights, because, those LED panels up in the ceiling, we can ask to get, certain panels removed, and we can hang lights and truss where we need to, but that's not something you can really just do on the fly in the middle of shooting. You kind of have to plan it out. So that makes it a bit trickier in some instances.
What was it like working for so many different directors for all of the episodes?
Well, I mean, I guess different directors have their different vibe they bring on set, but in reality, like, all of them on this show were fantastic. Every one of them was great to work with. And, they're working with the actors, and they're setting kind of the tone of the episode. And they have their certain, cinematic and story choices that they're making. But at the end of the day, it's still the same show. So, it's certainly from like a lighting perspective, we're kind of trying to maintain consistency and trying to maintain the look throughout the course of the series. But a lot of television shows oftentimes have different directors per episode. So it's not something that's necessarily uncommon or different with this show.
And how did you keep the child a secret?
That is a good question. I mean, we all worked so hard on this show, and any movie for that matter, and none of us want leaks. I mean, I hate spoilers.
Oh, me
Can't
too.
stand them. I don't tell my parents. I don't tell my roommate. Like anything. I want them to kind of go in and enjoy it as an audience member would. And so it's like you hate when leaks do occur on any project or movie you've worked on. And there's a lot of it takes a lot of people to make these projects, so things can get out on different movies and shows. But hopefully you can keep it to the the minimum. I definitely want to give a shout out also to like the marketing team, and I don't know if it was Favreau or Disney or whomever, but like in season 1, the trailers leading up to the show, they didn't show the child at all once.
Oh, wow.
And I think that was a fantastic choice, because everyone got to see the reveal in that first episode, and I think that was really, really cool.
Yeah, because I only started getting into it recently, and so I didn't see the
So I'm sure you saw the memes and
yes,
stuff. It's kind of hard to avoid at this point.
Yeah, I knew that there was like a Yoda-looking species. I get in trouble for saying Baby Yoda, so I'm trying not to.
It's fine.
But so I knew that character was in it, but I can't imagine how hard it would have been to market that. Yeah, shout out to them. And did you get to meet George Lucas?
So I got to meet George like 15 years ago or so. He came and visited USC, the college I was going to, and I got to work on an interview with him at one point. So that was really exciting then.
The perks of living in America.
Yeah,
that's what happens in college.
He has visited the set one or two times, and I could see him there, but like, he's doing his own thing. I'm not going to go bother him and say hi. But there was a moment where he picked up the child, and everyone around was kind of like, oh, this is really exciting, this is a moment, and kind of crowding around him. And so me and my friend Bobby were like just kind of way off on the side in the background, kind of just taking it in and kind of laughing at this whole moment. Jon Favreau, I guess, took a picture of George holding the child and put it on his Instagram.
Ooh,
and if you look at the photo, I'm actually in the background there in the dark blue shirt with my arms crossed.
Oh my God, yes you are.
So
you're actually in a photo with George Lucas, the child, and then there's you.
Yeah. I guess not many people can say that.
Not many
But it was just really hilarious because me and my friend Bobby there, who's the rigging gaffer on the show, we're just, we just were on the far side of the stage. We're just like, oh, this is kind of a cool moment. Look at all the people like gathered around.
Yeah.
And somehow we end up in the background of the photo. It's just kind of funny.
That's amazing. And what was it like to work with Dave Filoni?
Amazing, to be honest. Like I've been a long time fan of Dave Filoni, not only from the Clone Wars and from Rebels, but he worked on and directed a lot of episodes of Avatar: The Last Airbender, which I believe you're watching.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, so really cool to kind of get a chance to work with him and see him operate on set. He's always super enthusiastic, and he has a wealth of Star Wars knowledge. I remember like there was a instance where I think at the beginning of the season, Derek, who's the A unit lighting programmer, was talking to Dave about like what is the boot up sequence of the Razor Crest? Like, what do you want the lights to do when it comes on? And he was kind of, rattling off ideas that he'd like to see. And yeah, maybe he could have been making it up on the spot. I don't know, but he's got such a wealth of knowledge that he makes it believable.
Yeah.
And so that's just really cool to be kind of just a part of that.
This is also another funny one. What items did you steal from set? I'm sure no one would admit they stole something from set, though.
Well, I don't like to steal anything from any set I work on. But it's hard because like when you're on a show like this, you're like, I want something to remember it by. So the one thing I took was I grabbed a handful of sand from Tatooine when we were shooting that episode 5.
I love
and
that.
Put it and have a little glass vial.
Oh, that's amazing.
So it's silly, but it's it's I guess sentimental that I have sand from Tatooine, which I think is kind of cool.
And you can't get in trouble for stealing sand because it's just a part of nature.
I hope not. I was just a little handful of dirt. I think I hope I'm going to be okay.
I think you're going to be okay. Mm-hmm. And what film, television series, or behind the scenes feature inspired you to enter this field of work?
Let's see. I mean, I guess growing up in the 80s and 90s, beyond Star Wars, I was big fans of like Back to the Future, Indiana Jones series, and definitely Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings was coming out right as I was graduating high school and going into college and going into film school. And I have to give special mention to the Lord of the Rings behind the scenes featurettes they have on the DVD box sets. They have, to this day, the most amazing behind-the-scenes footage from that trilogy of films.
I'll have to check it out.
It goes on for hours and hours and hours and hours, but at least to me, it was riveting every minute of it the way through. So, like, in a way, it kind of acted as like a second film school.
Yeah.
And like I got to see how so many things were done, and I was just amazed by all of it, and that's what really kind of made me want to get into the field. And I will say, like, with the streaming era that we're in, there's a lot less behind the scenes stuff you see in general these days.
Yeah.
Even on Blu-rays, I still like to buy Blu-rays, the 4K Blu-rays, and watch them at home. But usually the behind the scenes featurettes are pretty minimal.
Yeah, they're on YouTube if there are any.
Yeah, then YouTube you can find some clips here or there, but it seems like it's not as expansive as it once was. But I will say that Disney and Disney Plus they surprised me when they released an 8-part behind the scenes series of The Mandalorian. I think they call it The Gallery, which you can find on Disney Plus. And I encourage anyone who's interested, definitely go check that series out, because you get to see a lot of how Mando was made, and far more than I can ever tell you. So I'm super thrilled that they put that series together, and
Oh man, I'll have to check
I
that
hope
out too.
I hope that they continue that sort of stuff with other shows and features, because I eat it all up. I love it.
It's inspiring for young people, you know?
Yeah.
I know why I
Hmm.
got into the field that I got into, and it's going to sound stupid, but it was because
Let's
of
hear it.
Entourage. I was like,
Oh, really?
yeah, I was 14 when I started watching Entourage, and yeah, it's a bad show to watch as a 14-year-old. But the lifestyle, not like Vince's lifestyle, but
Right.
like specifically Ari's and the
Okay.
publicists, and yeah, just like I guess the behind the scenes, the things that you don't see is
Yeah.
what really inspired me to get into the field that I'm currently in. So
That's really cool.
yeah, it's these kinds of things that people get to see that help them choose their path.
Hmm.
Yeah, so thank you so much for sharing all of that with us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, it's been a really good chat and so lovely to actually speak to you, because I know we've followed each other on Twitter for a while.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, we've been chatting for a while, and it was really
yeah,
cool to get a chance to finally chat with you. Thank you.
yeah, thank you so much. Thank you guys so much for watching. That was so much fun for me. It was so nice to talk to Tom and catch up with him. This was the first time I spoke to him actually, but as I said, we've been following each other on Twitter, so it was so nice to put a face to the name that I'd always see on my Twitter newsfeed. So yeah, let me know if you guys like this video by giving a thumbs up. It really helps me out. And leave me a comment. Tell me what you're excited about for season 2 of The Mandalorian. Subscribe, push bell notifications on, and check out my Patreon, because most of my patrons would have already seen this video through early access, and I've also got uncut videos over there if you are interested in that. Thank you and take care of yourselves. I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.